Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another webinar with our friends from the College Board. Excited to have you joining us today. A little bit of a smaller group, I think, on for this webinar. We'll give you another minute or so to get settled in and wait for some more to join us. As you are maybe refilling your coffee and getting ready to do some learning together, would love it if you could open the chat and just introduce yourself, give your name, your role, what school district you are from or school building, and then maybe just one hope that you have to learn about the AP African American Studies course, or a question that you want to get answered, and we will do our best to make sure that we get all those things answered. One note as you hop on the chat to introduce yourself, please make sure that it is set to respond to everyone and not just the hosts and panelists. This way, everyone can see who is on the webinar together today. So again, I know a couple more have just joined us since I started my spiel. Welcome. Please hop on the chat, introduce yourself. Would love to know who is joining us today. All right. See, somebody's already in there responding. Thank you for that. I'm just going to cover a couple of logistical things as we get started here, waiting for the rest of the group to join us. So this is a webinar, which means we are going to do our best to use the Q&A system to really answer any questions you have. Cassie and the team from College Board are really good about letting us just kind of interrupt them sometimes as we go if something is pertinent. So I'll be watching. Some of the College Board team might respond to and give you an answer right in the Q&A as well if it's something simple enough to respond to. So feel free to dump your questions in there. You can even use the little thumbs up button to kind of like upvote the questions. That'll help us prioritize them if we do get quite a few coming through. Otherwise, if you have just a kind of general comment you want to share, or an idea or suggestion, we're going to use the chat for that. So again, questions in the Q&A, just sharing of ideas and comments in the chat. And then we will send over the slide deck and the recording of this webinar. I'm usually able to get those sent out the following day, so be on the lookout probably tomorrow at some point for an email from me, Ryan Casey at MASSP. So you have all this info and you can share it with your colleagues. This is just kind of the standard disclaimer that we usually have at the beginning of these webinars. Because you can access this webinar a week later, a month later, a year later, you just always want to make sure that the information is accurate and up to date. So this is really more of a disclaimer we use on a lot of our legal webinars, but just know that some of the information you see today might change down the road, so you always want to make sure you check that information out. And then we do have a couple other webinars coming up in the next week or so that we'd love to have you join us for. So Michigan passed that new cell phone legislation. So we have a webinar on Thursday that my colleagues from MASSP are running. And then our College Board will be back with us one more time on March 5th to talk about the newer AP Pre-Calc course. So you can register for those by heading over to massp.com/events. Those are both free webinars. So register yourself, encourage some colleagues to join you. We would love to have you. So I think that is my spiel for the morning. I am going to stop sharing now, and I'm going to turn it over to Cassie and her team, and she'll introduce everybody, I think. So appreciate all the webinars we've been able to do with the College Board. College Board has been great partners with MASSP over the years, and I think we're going to see them up at our EdCon conference, it sounds like, in Traverse City at the end of the school year. So excited to be able to meet Cassie in person and Dennis and everybody else. So that is it for me. I'll monitor the chat and the Q&A. So the show is yours, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan. And yeah, good morning to everyone here. Please do introduce yourselves in the chat. We'd love to know your name and your district. As Ryan mentioned, my name is Cassie, and we're part of your Michigan-based team here. So I live in the Upper Peninsula, and I'll pass it over to my teammate, Dennis.
Hello, everybody. Wonderful meeting you. My name is Dennis Bestie. I live in the Lower Peninsula, around the Troy area, but super happy to have you all here. And I'll
Hi,
pass it over to Sri. I'm sorry.
thank you, Dennis. Good morning, everybody. My name is Cherie Agnezier, and I work with AP programs specifically for national growth for AP African American Studies. And I'm the one that's not from Michigan. I'm actually based out of Chicago, so not too far. And I'll pass it over to Matt.
Hi, everybody. My name is Matt Briesman. I am an AP African American Studies teacher. It's our school's third year of the course, and I live in West Michigan, Kentwood Public Schools. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So we're super excited to be able to bring this topic today to the webinar series. As you probably surmised from the registration, we're talking all about AP AFAM, which is one of our newer courses to College Board. And as you noticed from introductions, we have some experts in the room. So I'm really excited for you to hear directly from them about what the course looks like, the teacher experience, the student experience, and then what we're seeing already for outcomes for students. That's kind of the overview of our goals here. And with that in mind, just, kind of grounding this in, our AP expansion efforts with College Board is really just a continued part of our mission to meet students where they're at and help clear a path for future opportunities. AP AFAM is a really unique course in how it does that, which we'll share a little bit more later. But this is one of our courses that is designed for any student coming in. They don't have to have a prerequisite in something else or a different background in anything else. So we really view this as an early access opportunity for students, and we'll share why that matters in a bit as well. So a bit about the College Board, if you're not familiar, yes, of course, you probably know our AP program, our early college earning credit courses. But beyond that, it's also a community of teachers and students. We have a larger team here in Michigan from our K-12 side, which is Dennis and I, also to our higher ed partners. And what we basically do is serve as a free resource for all of you schools and educators in the state, and of course, other places we are outside of Michigan, to really make sure that we are providing as many opportunities as we have for students as we can, whether that is through AP or through our SAT suite of assessments or even our Big Future program. We have a lot of different products and programs that we'd love to share with you if you are interested. And again, especially Dennis and I, we live here. It's our job. We're happy to help be a resource for you. So if there's anything we can help with, please let us know. We'll have our contacts at the end here. Specifically with AP, we have about 40 different classes now, really culminating in that AP exam. Now, students, who take that exam, of course, they have the opportunity to earn college credit. But beyond that, the goal of AP is really on the personal development and those durable skill development. So we're looking the exam is kind of a bonus. If they're able to earn the college credit, that's wonderful, and we'd love to see that. But we also really want students to feel confident that they can pursue a post-secondary pathway. We want them to feel that they're capable of doing the work. And we also want them to have some agency in their learning as well. And that's exactly what our AP course design does, especially AFAM, which is very unique course design, which we'll talk about in a bit. So again, these are kind of the overview of benefits. We've shared these in some of our other webinars with MASSP, so you've maybe seen them before. But I always like to come back to sort of our purpose of why, AP makes a difference. And the big takeaway for us is, there's a lot of focus on those AP scores of 3, 4, and 5, which typically are those that do earn students college credit. But there's tremendous benefit for students, even who earn a 1 or a 2, again, really in their self-confidence, their development, and realizing their own potential. So what we do see here in this chart is that you can see the AP students are in blue, and then students who have not taken AP are in gray. And this shows how, even if they get a score of a 1 or 2, they're significantly more likely to pursue post-secondary enrollment after high school. So it really does impact them in terms of their future potential. And then, of course, it also is a great predictor of their likelihood to take another AP course. So this is really important with our AP courses that students can start taking in ninth grade, especially in 10th grade. And you can kind of see these comparisons here. And again, these are scores of 2 and scores of 1. And then in Michigan in particular, we've been seeing tremendous growth in AP, which is super exciting for all of these reasons, as you just saw. We're seeing a little over 12% interest or increase in AP participation in Michigan students, and really notable increases specifically among our Black and Latino students, Latinx students. Um, and as a reminder, we do have when Ryan sends out the deck to this presentation, you'll be able to click on all of these links. But we do have a link here to the Michigan AP exam fee assistance page. This is updated for 2026 with all of those costs and reductions. But over a third of students qualify for a fee reduction. I know there are districts that even cover all 100% of exam fees for students. So I know that there are many of you that are already doing some really great work behind the scenes. But please note, for some of these students, the cost really can come down to about $5 or $5 to $10 in that range for those exams. And all of that is listed on this link here. And we're obviously talking about AP FAM today, but just so you sort of see here in a representation, we have a number of newer to our AP family courses, including AP Seminar, which we recently talked about here with MASSP. So we've got that recording out there. Pre-Calc, which, as Ryan mentioned, is coming up here next week. And so you can kind of see those in blue, and then AP African American Studies in green there. And you can also see kind of where they sit in terms of their content domain. All right, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Cherie.
Thank you, Cassie. So good morning, everybody. I'm going to talk a bit about the course design, and then I'll turn it over to Matt so you can hear directly from a teacher. So as was mentioned, AP African American Studies is unique in that it is an interdisciplinary course, but it's actually not College Board's first interdisciplinary course. The first one was AP Seminar, as was just mentioned, 10 years ago. So here we have another course where students can tap into different sources, different skills like argumentation with a project component. So a lot of the newer courses are being intentional about being relevant and meaningful for students and offering more project-based learning. All right, we can go to the next slide. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the project and the course design. So as was mentioned, it's interdisciplinary, so we are examining the arts, literature, political science, geography, the humanities. It is not solely a social studies course, even though for many schools it may live in that department, but there's also connections to literature, the arts. Different teachers may teach the course based on their credentials, but I have seen English teachers teach the course, social studies teachers, even arts teachers teach the course. And then it also lends itself to the different interests of students. Any student can kind of find meaningful learning from this course based on their interests and what they want to explore beyond high school. The course is also thematic, and so it's also chronological, but there are major themes that are seen throughout every unit. So we can see here the 4 units that make up the course, and then there are certain themes that students can find connections within every unit, from migration to identity, creativity in the arts, resistance and resilience. All of these themes transcend throughout the 4 major units. And unlike many courses for students with that are history courses, this course starts in Africa. It doesn't start with just examining, for instance, the transatlantic slave trade. And for many students, that is something that is different for them. And they get to learn about different ancient African kingdoms. Many students see this as a draw because it's new information for them. And then it goes all the way to current day. And even when asked, how far into the present does the course go? I like to say that it goes into the future because then students explore topics like Afrofuturism. The course is skill-based, and so a lot of the newer courses are great for students that are first-time AP students. We recommend this course for 10 through 12th graders, and that's because a lot of these skills are skills that even 10th graders will have success building upon. So that includes applying disciplinary knowledge, source analysis, and argumentation. So we see a lot of, and this, we can see a graphic with this slide here, and we can see throughout the 4 units where students will be applying disciplinary knowledge and building on prior learning. Then we can see with the source analysis, this is a huge part of the course, and there are hundreds of sources within AP African American Studies. What's nice about this course is that it's really clear for the teacher which sources are required to be taught for the exam and just for their learning. And then there are a plethora of suggested sources to enhance and enrich the teaching and learning that goes on. And then lastly, we see argumentation. We see this a little bit fewer than the others, but we start to build students' argumentation skills and proving a point, creating a thesis. We see a lot of this with their project because it's kind of like a mini dissertation where they have to make a claim and prove it with credible research. The course is also multimedia. So as mentioned, all of the sources are, of course, not all the same. They're not all just documents. There are poems, there are photographs, there's artwork, there's music, there's literature, newspapers. There is a rich variety of multimedia sources, and there are lots of videos connected with the course through different partners. And so we'll talk more about that. As mentioned, primary and secondary sources are over 250. The course has partnerships, as mentioned, with programs like JSTOR, the Smithsonian Learning Lab, where students have direct access to these sources, not only for the course, but for their project as well. And this students can access this through AP Classroom. And this is also college level coursework. The course is project-based, as I mentioned, project-based learning. A lot of the newest AP courses, there is a project component. And you're going to see that trend with some of the new courses that are coming up. But AP AFM definitely has a project. What's nice about this project is that students get to choose the topic based on what they're learning. This is just an outline of how much time we recommend, but there are different variations of how teachers can implement the project. Some teachers may implement the project at the end of the course and they wait until they finish most of the curriculum. And then some teachers like to implement the project with a through course approach where they touch on it little by little throughout the school year, depending on your school calendar. Teachers decide what makes the most sense. But we definitely recommend at least 3 weeks. That is the minimum. But you can see here, there may be more time with the through course approach where you're touching on bits and pieces of the project. And then there's the exam. The exam, of course, is in the first couple weeks of May. The exam is comprised of multiple choice. There are free response questions, so FRQs, and then a DBQ, a longer free response question. And then what is also nice with the project is that students get credit for doing that project. It counts towards their exam score. And then there's also a question on the exam that is called the validation question, where they get to answer one of the oral defense questions on the exam to prove that they have completed this component of the course. All right, so I will turn it over then to Matt so we can hear about his classroom experience that I've had the pleasure of visiting a couple times. So let's hear from Matt.
Yeah, thank you, Sri.
Mhm.
First off, hello everybody. It's an honor to be here and speak to you about this class. It is unlike any class that I've ever taught. I've been teaching for 18 years, and I've taught AP US History and AP World History for almost all of those years. So I took on AP AFAM or AP African American Studies during the pilot year, which was 3 years ago, and I knew I was going to learn a lot, and I surely have. And I thought this class was going to be special, but I keep saying to everyone I talk to, like the 5, 10 most like amazing moments I've had, like chills, like, yes, this is why I wanted to be a teacher, have come in connection with this class, and just watching students who I've known, I've seen in the hallways, and like come alive. There's some source, there's some project, them doing their individual student presentation. It's so awesome. So I know the College Board is, giving all of the details and all the things you need to know on the practical side. But when you leave this webinar, I hope one thing you can take away is, yes, our high school needs this. I truly believe that, and my students will say the same thing when they're asked, that this should be available to everybody. So that's my main takeaway. But yes, the class is so powerful because students are, I'm not teaching about Black people, but really we are allowing the voices of African Americans of the past to do the teaching, right? And so I'm really the guide on the side because the College Board has selected such rich sources. So literally, I mean, if you're a teacher and a professional, the resources that are available for you are so helpful that I think any great teacher, any good teacher can teach this class. I mean, you have to be a great teacher. Being a great teacher, I don't know, there are some days where it's hard to be a great teacher, but I really think any professional can do this. And I would not say that at all about AP US History or AP World History, right? But for this class, because of the resources that are available, it's like you can just kind of plug and play in some ways. And then it's about you are helping the students as they are going through the sources, and the sources are extremely rich and they're very diverse, which I think is a misunderstanding about this class, right? Like you're only getting, I've just read this in the press all the time, where people will critique the class as only being one perspective, which is anyone who is given that take needs to take the class because they'll quickly realize there's not one perspective in African American studies. But there's just so much here. And so what's also really great about this class, especially for where I teach at one of the most diverse schools in the United States, actually, where we call ourselves the 4th most diverse school in the country. It's kind of hard to verify that. We're definitely the most diverse in Michigan here at Kentwood Public Schools. So I have students from, at one point, I think, Sheree, I gave you a list. Now I can't think of the number off the top of my head, but the amount of languages, like first languages, who have taken this class, it's like 9 or 10 different languages that I've had students who take this class. And the amount of connections, like my Vietnamese students, when they're looking at Unit 1, we're talking about African history and we're learning about extended kinship ties. And students from Vietnam, a student from Myanmar, have been able to say, wait a second, this is similar to like my experience here in the United States. Like this is my cultural identity and how it varies kind of from the dominant culture. And just the discussions and the connections made throughout have just been really fantastic.
Thank you, Matt. And we're not done hearing from him, but I can go, if you can go back one more slide. So one thing I want to add is that, and this is, I was a former history teacher. I wish I had the pleasure of teaching this course, but it wasn't around yet. But I was also a former assistant principal. And one thing I can say about this course is that, just to kind of continue what Matt said, it's not a monolithic narrative. I find that a lot of students enjoy the course because it is more than just the negative or, the sad parts of history as it relates to African Americans, but it also celebrates a lot of joy. And they hear about and they learn about a lot of African Americans they may have never heard of or who may not be the primary figures that they learn every year from middle school through high school. So this course really allows them to examine more stories, to really get into the positive contributions of African Americans and really get into diverse genres. So here, that's why we see the intention with Catherine Dunham, Cabin in the Sky, which for many students, they may never have heard of her. Um, and then for the next slide, another aspect of this course that I want to highlight that we want to focus on is that it really is a global course. When we talk about, we say the African diaspora, the course really traces the history of African Americans all around the world through migration, as is one of the themes. Other aspects of the course that really set it apart from other social studies courses that we hear and we see the voices and perspectives of women really elevated in the course. The course channels stories across rural and urban communities. There are connections to indigenous communities, Latin America, the Caribbean, of course, Africa, as mentioned with Unit 1, which is also very different experience for any student, no matter what their background is. And then examining migrations and connections across Europe and Asia. So this is really a global course. Students that have taken AP World find many connections between what they learned in AP World. And then also, of course, students, see connections with the US history because this is American history. But there's also many global perspectives that this course draws upon. So they go beyond the scope of the traditional history courses that they are used to. All right. And then students gain confidence, as mentioned. Right now, I would say about 29% of students that have taken this course this has been their first AP course. So for many students, this is a gateway for them to continue on to take more AP courses and to build confidence in their high school career and then beyond for college. And they're successful. They're doing very well in the course. They're feeling prepared and empowered. And here we have a couple quotes from students. And then this is a montage video of different students from across the country talking about how the course has impacted them. I don't know if do we want
Do
to
you want me
play
to try
it?
to play the video?
Yeah, let's see if
Let's
it
see
works.
if sound comes across. Okay.
This course is so much more than I expected. I was excited to learn about America from a brand new lens.
AP African American Studies is the most in-depth and interesting class I've taken.
We talked about the accomplishments and impact of African Americans.
I really enjoy social studies as well as English. And so this sort of had both disciplines.
My teacher mimicked what I truly imagined a college course to be like. The work didn't really feel like traditional schoolwork, but more like projects that helped me learn and grasp onto ideas and history better. And I would learn so many new things, and I would go home and I would relay it back to my parents.
This was my first AP. So in that sense, it kind of gave me an idea of what to do and how to study for APs and what AP curriculum is kind of like.
It definitely contextualizes many points in American history that are typically overlooked in your standard US history or world history class. And I think this course definitely helped with showing me how far I can push myself.
I would say it's all worth it in the end because you get so much knowledge, and I love that.
I just love the freedom that this class gave with that research.
I just really appreciated the course and everything it had to offer.
All right. All right, so we hear it straight from students, and Matt has some students that have felt empowered and have gone on to do great things as a result of not only taking the course, but of him being their teacher. So if we go to the next slide, do you want to talk about this, Matt?
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. So you just reminded me of another thing. I just had an email yesterday with a student who took my class last year as a senior, African-American male student, and he just let me know that he's decided he wants to be a history teacher. So he's in his first year of college. He sent me that email. It was so cool. And he mentioned this class specifically. He's like, I can't believe that I'm sending this email, but like, I think I want to teach that class. So really, like I already said, it's been powerful for me, right? It's a class where students can really grab a hold of it. Already been mentioned that the end of the year student project, which is the coolest way to end a class ever. I actually am making my AP US History students do that this year, even though it's not part of AP US History. It should be. College Board make them do that. That is such an incredible way to end, because you have the AP test, right? It's early May, and then you're together for a while after that, and there's a little bit, we try to keep up the rigor, but we all know, AP teachers, once the AP test is done, you kind of lose a little bit of the momentum. But this class with that individual student research project is just incredible. Everyone ends with like a win. Because they're able to go through and they stand up there, they make their claim, and like, wow, this is, everything that I know. It's studies. I always say history because I'm a history teacher. I've definitely had to grow as an English teacher. I'm leaning on my colleagues for some ideas about like, okay, how do I, what do I do with this poem? And I'll say that, but the things that the College Board has given me, plus resources in my building, I felt every day very prepared to teach this class. And that's also what I hear from AP African American Studies teachers all over the country. So last year I went to the AP reading at the end of the year, and I talked to a guy from Washington who had been a football coach. He was like a history teacher, football coach. He said, I didn't know much about Black history. My school asked me to teach it. It was such an incredible experience that he went from like one section to, I don't know, he multiplied his sections, and he ended up quitting being the football coach because this class changed my career. And I hear more stories, and that one was pretty incredible, but I hear more stories like that. I have yet to find the teacher who was like, wow, I can't believe I got this class. Which I do hear from other AP teachers and other AP class. I mean, I love the College Board. I don't mean to say negative things about the College Board, but this class really is special. So I love that student testimonial from the video where she says she goes home and talks about it. And I've heard that from my students. This was a press article from the School News Network here in West Michigan. One of my students during the pilot year said, I've gone home and talked about this stuff. And I haven't done that since elementary school. Like, students want to go home and talk about things. And then students will just naturally find stuff out about family history. They're like, oh, we learned this in class. And like, didn't you know that your aunt did? And you're like, wait, what? And so just the connections and the richness of the class. I really believe every student in our state should have access to it. There's such an incredible community. Here's our students last year at the Michigan State University hosts a get together for all AP AFAM students from around the state. We get together and we have a quiz bowl. Yes, this is East Kentwood with the giant trophy that we have to defend next month. But like, I've been teaching for 18 years. I've never had a college email me and say, hey, we heard that you have this class. We're college professors. We want to drive to your school and support you because this is so important. I've had just local historians of Black history come into class, which I feel like if it was US history class, it'd be like, okay, what's your speaking fee? Could we get you to do this? And for this class, we're like, oh yeah, I would love to just come in. You tell me the time I want to come in and talk to AP African American Studies. So the outside community support, the excitement around this class for teachers, universities in our state. And then I'll end with these words from my students. We were invited by the State Board of Ed at the end of the pilot year to talk to the Board of Education. And my students said, this is like just the coolest quote of all time. It was like absolute chills. And they were like, this class is fantastic because I think the State Board of Ed put it slightly different. They said, empower students to see themselves as stakeholders in their community. I don't think my students said stakeholder, but they said, what I realize is how important it is for me to pay attention to what's going on because like, and this was an African-American female student. She's like, there wouldn't be democracy without Black women. And I didn't really know that. I thought democracy was kind of about like the old guys in the wigs, but like Black women are why we have democracy in this country. So I need to pay attention. I was like, it was the greatest quote. They changed it to stakeholders in their community, but just like the raw emotion from the student. This class A+++. So if you have any doubts, you should do it. There's so many resources out there. I think that's another slide, but
Yes. Yes. Thank you for that, Matt. Let's talk about the course impact, and then I'll get into a lot of the resources that are available for teachers. All right. So students are succeeding. This is the second year of full implementation for AP African American Studies. At the end of last year's exam administration, 79% of students who took the exam scored a 3 or higher. And for most colleges and universities, that is a score to earn college credit, to earn qualifying college credit. So that is huge. And as mentioned before, about 29% of students that took the course last school year, were first-time AP students. So that says a lot. The numbers are really just showing that when you have content that is relevant for students and many students can see themselves in ways that they haven't before, they'll perform better. They will rise to the occasion and meet the challenge because this course is just as rigorous as any other AP course. As mentioned, over 250 sources, quite a lot. There are tons of readings and they are not easy. So that's why we'll talk about resources that are available to support teachers because many teachers that teach the course are also first-time AP teachers. So College Board, as Matt has mentioned, we've been putting in a lot to support teachers teaching the course. And then how are students feeling about the course? Well, we know that engagement is always the battle. Again, I was a former teacher and principal, so I know that engagement, especially post, pandemic, that was a challenge. And that has been a challenge. It's always going to be a challenge. But with this course and how it's set up, the content, students feel engaged. 97% of students reported in our end of year survey that we do for new courses. They feel interested and eager to learn more. As mentioned before, many students will go on to take more AP classes as a result of taking AP African American Studies. And so, the earlier the better, because then by junior and senior year, as their priorities start to expand with applying for college, they can feel comfortable taking on courses that are suitable for them. And then as mentioned, the college path. So then we have students that will go on to take more courses as a result. So I'll turn it back over to you, Cassie.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we know once students are in the course and they, feel just pulled into the curriculum and the content, we know that they just sort of follow that path and just get more and more interested and self-driven. But we also know one of the conversations up front is just getting the student to consider enrolling in an AP course. And so part of that conversation does revolve around the opportunity to earn college credit. Just wanted to draw your attention to the college policy search tool, credit policy search tool here, this link here. You can sort that by state right down to Michigan. And we've done a bit of that work for you specifically for this course here. So for AP African American Studies, these are all of our universities in Michigan who have already committed to awarding credit. And then you can sort of see the minimum score required for credit as well. Again, this is a snapshot of a larger tool. You can filter it with a lot more functions than this, but for the ease of visibility on the slide, just wanted to include that. So, even though this is a newer one of our courses, obviously the value is already being seen also by our higher ed institutions and partners, many of whom, this type of course is often available first to students at the college level. Many students don't get to have the opportunity to learn about all of these histories and the richness of tradition until they get to college. So we can kind of see already the impact on the higher ed side. Cherie, you want to talk more about the teacher supports?
Absolutely. So there are many resources available for adoption for teachers. So I'll start with the growing list that we have that's offered through our AP Professional Learning sector of College Board. So we definitely recommend that teachers, whether you've been teaching other AP courses, we have AP Summer Institutes, both online and in person. Matt, you lead one for Michigan. If you want to talk about that briefly.
Yeah, so what exactly do you want for the APSI, like
Yeah.
what the experience is like? Yeah, so I see teachers for 4 days in a row in the summer. I do one in Granville, Michigan, so it's on the west side of the state, and we're together from like 8:30 to 4, and we're just going through exactly how we do every aspect of the course, and we're looking at examples. And I also teach students how to do the AP grading, so it kind of mimics the College Board feedback, so students are really prepared for the test. But yeah, it's a great experience.
Mhm. Awesome. We have online AP workshops. They're offered throughout. For instance, in the spring, we have a few in March, and then we're gearing up for the summer institutes. And so those workshops have a specific topic. It could be reviewing the course and exam description or exam preparation. There's also an online teacher community. Teachers, they ask for resources often, and then it's just a great way to share resources like lessons. Or people may ask, well, what are you doing for this topic? Or my students are kind of hung up on this. And teachers share resources. I just shared a resource with a teacher yesterday. They were asking about how to dispel some myths for their students. So online teacher community, great resource. And then, of course, as mentioned before, AP Classroom is for many teachers, this is a hub of information. There's access to topic questions, unit reviews, different formative assessments, question banks, practice tests. AP Classroom really has a lot of resources to really aid in the teaching and learning process. As mentioned before, the course and exam description is really, some people will say that it's just the course in a nutshell. Everything from the curriculum, people will say that it has all of what you need for the course in there. The project is really outlined in this exam description, the rubric for it, how to grade it, ways for students to record their sources, uh, practice questions on the exam, and then every unit and topic, essential questions and statements are laid out in this course and exam description. So this is the foundation for the course. Some teachers opt to use a supplementary text, but this is really the foundation of the course. Did you want to add anything about that, Matt?
Yeah, so that course and exam description is it's so good. It's so comprehensive. It's, again, maybe like an AP US history teacher, AP world teacher, and they're like, okay, that's kind of a little bit of a guide. This one is specific because it will say, for example, AP US history might say you need to know examples of abolitionists, right? And the AP African American Studies will say you need to know examples of Black abolitionists like David Walker, specifically David Walker's, this pamphlet. And then here is the required source. Here is that pamphlet. And so if you're a professional, you have that CED of everything that you need. Also, yeah, there are so many other wonderful resources. I also did some work with the Gilder Lehrman Institute and helping write some of the practice questions for Gilder Lehrman's AP African American Study Guide, which is a fantastic resource for teachers. The Smithsonian, a lot of our primary sources, required sources, come right from the Smithsonian site. And what's so fantastic about that is, okay, so the CED tells me what I need, like what students need. It tells me what resource I need to use to teach that objective. But then also you go to the Smithsonian website and they're going to have all this extra background that's going to help your teacher, feel more prepared. The 2-minute videos are fantastic. And then yes, access to JSTOR is a very, very cool part of the class. And it helps support students with their individual research project. Like I said, I think my favorite part of the class, but there are so many resources. So I think a lot of teachers will say, well, I wasn't a Black Studies major, so I don't know if I should, if I can teach that class. It's like, no, not no one, but I don't know what the stats are, but very, very few Black Studies majors became high school teachers, right? And so if someone in your building is giving you that excuse to say, no, our kids need this, our kids want this, they do. I've actually talked to schools who won't allow teachers to give a survey because they know if the teachers give the survey, then they're going to have so much overwhelming desire for this AP class that they're going to, they're not sure if they want to launch it or not. But let's just say the facts are this, like, I don't know, maybe you feel like your community might not be ready for it, but your students want it. And when they get it, they're going to be better for it. So,
Hey,
and also,
Matt and Sheree, a couple of quick questions that have come in.
yeah.
One question is if this class requires a lot more writing and presentation, maybe comparable to other AP courses in particular.
Presentation, yes. Actually, I can tell you for the AP Social Studies classes. So the AP Social Studies classes, there's no presentation requirement, which now that I've taught this class for 3 years, I think it's kind of crazy because it's such an incredible part about this class. I would say the writing is, we do as much writing, AP US History, AP World History, kind of, I'd say same.
Great. And then another question, do students need a textbook or could this class be offered without one?
Shree, what's the official answer?
So when you do your course audit and you submit a syllabus, you have to include some supplementary text, but you don't necessarily need it. The course and exam description can suffice. Some teachers use supplementary textbooks and some do not. But again, you would have to include at least one on your syllabus when you submit your course audit. And yeah, it just kind of depends on if you want to use a book. Matt, do you want to share what you do?
Yeah, so if you're an AP teacher, you can get all the AP textbooks. And so I have them. I love to look at them periodically. My students don't have the textbook. The course and exam description, we can use as our study guide, basically. And then we have there's enough reading from the primary sources. There's a primary source every single day. And that's just such an incredible way to do the class so that students are analyzing the source and they're making their own claims. But my students do not have a textbook.
Yeah. And on that note, just to get us to our last few slides and make sure we have some time for questions, we do have this visual of AP Classroom. I know there have been several questions about that, so this is just a little bit about what it looks like, but obviously designed to be as user-friendly and intuitive as possible for teachers to be able to use. And then, Sheree, do you want to chat a bit more about the content experts?
Yes, so these are even more resources available for teachers, for prospective teachers. So you don't have to be currently teaching the class. We have interested teachers who come to these monthly sessions which are led by content experts from around the country. And then we also have, well, if you can't make that time because those are on Saturdays at a set time, we have Chat with a Content Expert where you can set up your own time and make an appointment with a content expert to get one-on-one support to adopt a course, how to add it, and then if you have instructional questions as well. So more resources are available for direct one-to-one support or small group sessions with the topics with content experts.
Awesome. Thank you. So if you're feeling at this point now that you wish you'd be able to take this course yourself, like I wish I could have, or if you are interested in bringing it to your school for your students, we have all of these resources you'll have access to. You can dive in a little bit deeper, start some of those conversations with your administrators, your district leaders, whatever the process is for you. We're here to help you with that as well. So that's where Dennis and I can come in. Feel free to reach out to us and we'll help you kind of navigate how that process works. And then we'll also include, of course, these resources. So if you're getting questions about, well, what is the pathway for our students into this course? We do have, pre-AP courses if your district offers them. These ones naturally align right into AP AFAM. But again, this is a course designed for students who may have never taken an AP course before. So with that, we also have a course interest form. You're welcome to scan this, but you can also just email Dennis and I, and we have our emails here on the screen, or connect with Ryan, and he'll get you connected to us. But if you want to see this class in person, obviously the webinar is a great virtual resource and you'll have a bunch of other resources coming to your inbox soon, but we actually have a very unique opportunity for you to come and see it in person. So Matt mentioned last year he brought his students to Michigan State for an event. And that is happening again this year. So on Thursday, March 12th, Michigan State will be hosting a couple hundred current AP AFAM students on their campus for a day dedicated to celebrating Black Studies. And then also for the students, they'll get to see what it's like to be a Black student at Michigan State. Alongside that, we're offering an in-person 90-minute workshop for schools who are looking to adopt the course. So you'll get to see the students and their day and what they're experiencing, but then we'll also have some targeted sessions to help you work through the actual implementation and learn more about the adoption process. So Ryan, I'll send this your way as well if you want to include it in the email to everyone, but there's no cost for this. You are welcome to stay also for the full event. Our workshop is just from 9 a.m. to 10:30 on this day, but if you'd like to stay, there's a free lunch included and then some really great student-friendly events. So if you're leaving this webinar saying, this sounds really awesome, however, I know I need to get my principal on board or my superintendent on board, this would be the event to maybe bring them with you too, and we could talk to them and then they can see it for themselves as well. So with that, we're kind of at the end of our time here. I'm going to go backwards a slide so I leave our contact information up, but would be happy to open it up to any additional questions about this course or questions about the teacher experience for Matt or the curriculum for Cherie or anything else that may be on your mind.
And if it's easier at this point, we can probably even give you permission to like unmute if that's a little easier to just ask your question that way. I am not seeing any in the chat or the Q&A, so that means good job, College Board team, for getting all that information across. Looks like somebody wants the information for the field trip. So we will make sure we include that right in the follow-up email that I will send out. So, and there will be some links. And so, great. Well, Cassie, Dennis, Cherie, Matt, thank you so much for your time today. I learned a ton. So this was great, even for me to learn about some of the offerings. It's been exciting to learn about all the changes and new courses that College Board has put out within the last couple of years. So I appreciate that you guys are always willing to, look at the demand and needs of students and what options that they would appreciate and teachers and schools would appreciate. So I love all of these new opportunities for kids. So we'll get this recording and slide deck out to you in the next day or two. Reach out if you have any questions. Thanks for your time today, everybody. Have a great rest of your week.